The email came at 9:12 a.m., 1 minute after I swiped my badge through the glass doors. Subject: immediate termination, no greeting, no explanation. Just a line telling me to clear my desk and meet human resources for exit procedures. The coffee in my hand suddenly tasted bitter. I had worked at Rathmore Data Systems for 9 years. I had trained half the team. I thought it was a mistake until I saw people glancing at me, pretending not to. Then I noticed his reflection through the conference room glass. Mr. Clayton Rhodes, my manager, leaning back in his chair like a judge who had already given a sentence. I set my cup down and walked toward his office. "Is this some joke?" I asked through the open door. His smile was tiny, practiced. "Company restructure. Don't make this harder." I felt my throat tighten but kept my voice level. "You could have told me yourself." "I just did," he said. That I looked at him one last time and said softly, "You'll regret doing it this way." He chuckled. "We'll see." He didn't know I had made a call earlier that morning, to someone who knew exactly how to unravel him. My box filled too quickly. Framed photo of my mother, dried lavender in a jar, 2 notebooks of old analysis drafts. Devon from accounting tried to say something kind, but guilt made people clumsy. "It's not fair," he muttered. "No, it's predictable," I said. The elevator door closed, swallowing the whispering office floor. When it opened onto the lobby, sunlight hit me hard. Spring bright, almost mockingly cheerful, outside. I took a slow breath and dialed the contact I'd memorized. Audrey Gwynn, compliance officer at Quora Holdings, our biggest partner. We had met months ago working on a joint audit. She owed me a favor, and she disliked Clayton even more than I did. "He fired you?" she asked. "On email," I said. I could hear keyboard taps in the background. "Then you'll want to see what crossed my desk last night. It has your name stripped off the reports but all your numbers. He's selling your predictive models as his own." "I figured as much," I said quietly. "Can we prove it?" "Give me 48 hours. I thank her and end the call. I didn't have a job anymore, but I finally had purpose. I drove home through downtown traffic, rehearsing calm. My mother used to say rage burns fast but strategy burns slow. She was a bookkeeper her whole life, practical and patient. I could almost hear her voice. "Collect facts before you collect revenge." My apartment. Silence pressed on me. The last months replayed. The late nights fixing Clayton's blunders so the clients never knew, the praise he accepted in meetings, the raises that somehow bypassed me. On the kitchen table rested a thick file labeled Quarterly Forecast Methods. Those algorithms were mine, built line by line over years. Without them, the company's merger plan would implode. I opened my laptop, connected an external drive, and backed up every file that still bore my author stamp. He had underestimated me. Even if they wiped my access later, my signature codes were already woven into every core spreadsheet. I had designed them that way. Noon. I emailed a copy to Audra on a secure link. Then I sat back and whispered, "Let's see how steady you are without me, Mr. Rhodes." Day 2 felt heavier. HR had mailed the paperwork. Sterile words like reassignment of access rights and non-appealable decision. I tore the envelope and let the pieces fall like ash into the trash bin. Then my phone buzzed. Audra again. "Elena, you were right," she said. "He's been funneling your data through a dummy consultancy registered to his wife's cousin. The same data forms the backbone of Rathmore's proposed $40 million merger. We pulled logs." A low electric joy hit me. "Can you document every transfer?" "Already done. But you can't use it yet. You'll look like a bitter ex-employee." "I'd never go public," I said. "That's not my style." "Then what's the plan?" "Let him believe he's safe," I said after the call. I opened my notebook and wrote a list titled Endgame. Only 3 steps. Verify proof. Secure leverage. Wait for the right audience. It reminded me of a chess note my mother kept framed. Patience is the most violent move. By Friday, word had spread. My inbox filled with messages from coworkers who had no idea. Each apology carried the same aftertaste of survival instinct. I visited my mother for dinner, carrying takeout. She lived 2 bus stops away in a small house that smelled of rosemary and laundry powder. "You look tired," she said. Just adjusting, I lied. She studied me. You're planning something. I smiled faintly. Maybe justice. Her hand covered mine. Make sure it doesn't eat you first. That night back home I couldn't sleep. Clayton's smug face floated behind my eyelids. But alongside it, a steadier picture formed. The Quora Holdings conference room, the partners' stern faces when they learned his numbers were stolen. I drafted a new file labeled for board review. My work, dated and signed. Proof of every formula. Somewhere past midnight, an email came from Audra. Subject: the auditors are interested. Keep your phone on Monday. I closed the laptop. For the first time since the firing, I felt ready to rest. Excellent. Continuing seamlessly from Chapter 5, each chapter below runs about 200 to 220 words, keeping the same first-person, confessional voice and growing tension toward Elena's poetic revenge. Monday morning arrived too quietly. I no longer had a badge to tap or a coat hook with my name, but habit made me wake before 7. I dressed anyway. Jeans, blue sweater, no lipstick this time, and sat by the window with coffee as traffic shimmered below. At 9:30 my phone rang. Elena, the external auditors want to talk, Audra said. They'll be discreet. By noon, 2 investigators from Lexington and Baines called. The older one, Mr. Ellery, spoke like a man used to ugly truths. We've been informed that proprietary models used at Rathmore may have been copied without consent, he said. Would you be willing to verify authorship? Yes, I said. But quietly. He promised confidentiality, then requested my source files and timestamps. I gave him everything but one key folder. I needed a final card to keep. After the call I leaned back. For 3 years I'd watched Clayton brag about honesty and corporate ethics. Now those words might bury him outside. Clouds gathered over the river like a slow storm. I whispered to myself, let it rain. By Wednesday the company's gossip channels lit up. A routine audit had frozen project accounts. Clayton pretended nothing was wrong, posting cheerful updates on the internal forum. Audra sent me screenshots. He's panicking behind the smile, she wrote. I smiled too, but revenge felt heavier than I'd imagined. Not sharp, just certain. That evening, I attended my mother's choir concert at St. Andrew's. Their voices filled the old hall like light seeping through cracked glass. Listening, I wondered when I had last believed something could sound that pure. Maybe justice could be, if done right. Afterward, Mom hugged me. You look lighter, she said. I'm just letting go, I told her, and partly it was true. Home, I added one more step to my notebook. 4. Expose him only through proof, never anger. Then I closed it beside the lamp and let the choir's echoes stay with me as a kind of prayer. Friday afternoon, my former teammate Jonah called from a blocked number. Elena, they're saying you hacked company data, he blurted. I laughed softly. Of course they are. Clayton told upper management you stole files the day before you were fired. IT is digging through server logs. Good. They'll find my login disabled 40 minutes before those copies appeared. Silence. You're not even worried. Not yet. When we hung up, my hands shook. Not from fear, but the realization that Clayton was already cornered enough to smear me. T6, I phoned Audra. They're trying to frame me. They can't, she said. We pulled network timestamps proving his workstation forwarded the codes. If they push this story, they'll hang themselves. Relief came like warm water. Still, I spent the evening double-checking every file. Each was clean, properly encrypted. At the bottom of the directory, I left a small script that would log any attempt to alter authorship again. Let him try. The program would record the thief this time. The following week, Lexington and Baines summoned Clayton to an interview. I wasn't invited, but Audra described it later. He swaggered in with that fake charm. Then the lead auditor played the screen recording showing the data trail, she said. He went white as glass. Official silence followed. The firm didn't announce anything, yet whispers spread faster than policies. One evening, I walked along the riverfront, feeling both vindicated and hollow. Revenge, I realized, doesn't sing. It hums low like electricity, my mother called. You sound distant, she said. Maybe I'm just tired. Then rest before the next storm. I wanted to tell her there was no next storm, but I wasn't sure. Clayton was the type who thought every loss could be spun. He'd never imagine I was working with the auditors themselves. By midnight, I received a text from Audra. He's suspended. More soon. I stared at those words until sleep took me. Suspension wasn't enough. He would spin that as temporary review. I needed final proof that tied him directly to fraud. Audra had a plan. There's a hidden asset folder under his wife's consultancy account, she said. We can't access it, but the auditors can if someone tips them to the exact location. So on Tuesday, I wrote an anonymous email signed a concerned employee and sent it from a public computer at the library. I included the path names, disguised my style, then walked away. For 2 days nothing happened, and I began to worry I'd pushed too far too soon. Then Friday morning, breaking news on the company intranet. Rathmore Data Systems under internal investigation. CFO and analytics director cited. Clayton's picture appeared beside the headline. I read the article twice, breathing slow, steady. Justice wasn't thunderous, it was quiet, methodical, exactly like the spreadsheets I used to build that night. I changed my voicemail greeting to something simple. You've reached Elena Walsh. If I miss your call, leave a name and reason. I wondered whose name I'd hear first. The following week began with silence, the tense kind that hides noise beneath it. Clayton hadn't contacted me, but I saw his digital footprints. He tried to log into my old network folders twice, both times triggering the passive watcher script I'd planted. The log showed his device ID, timestamp, and even his location. He still thought he could rewrite history. I sent the report to Audra. Proof he's manipulating evidence. Her reply came fast. Perfect. This closes the loop. That night, I spread the printed logs across my kitchen table like puzzle pieces. Every page traced a path from his computer to the stolen accounts. My name had been replaced by his initials. The arrogance of it almost made me laugh. Still, under the laughter was sadness. I had once believed that workplace fairness existed if you worked hard enough. I wasn't naive anymore. Before bed, I added the final step to my notebook. 5. Present everything when the board meets. Revenge was nearly complete. I just needed a stage. The stage arrived sooner than expected. Audra called on Wednesday. The board schedules an emergency session next Tuesday about the merger. They'll invite Quora Holdings as observers. Meaning you, I said. And maybe you if I can convince them your evidence matters. I hesitated. Would that break confidentiality? Not if you come as my consultant. By Friday she confirmed it. An official one-day contract at Quora. My badge read temporary advisor. The irony almost made me giddy. Over the weekend, I ironed my best Navy suit and practiced answers in the mirror, keeping my tone level, factual, never emotional. This wasn't about anger anymore. It was about truth laid bare. Monday night, Mom called. You sound peaceful, she said. I think I'm ready to stop surviving and start winning. The next morning before dawn, I stood by the window watching streetlights fade into daylight. Whatever happened, my silence had brought me here, and silence would finish the job. Conference room 7 smelled of polished wood and nerves. 12 board members filled the oval table, plus 2 men from legal, Audra beside me, and, finally, Clayton at the far end, face pale but still powdered with confidence. When introductions ended, the chairwoman said, We're here to review allegations concerning the integrity of the merger data. Audra handed her a file. These are source models created by Elena Walsh, formerly senior analyst. They predate the consultancy's work by 3 years. Clayton leaned forward. Those algorithms were collaborative. She left voluntarily. Really? I asked softly. Room stills. Because my termination email said, immediate dismissal. Also, your access log shows downloads from my drive the same day you announced the partnership. A ripple of murmurs. The chairwoman raised a hand. Ms. Walsh, do you have proof? I slid the printed logs across. Every transfer. Every edit. Even your laptop's ID. Clayton's jaw worked, but words failed after an hour of questions. The meeting adjourned outside in the hall. Audra whispered, "They believe you." He nodded. "Now they just need time to act." I expected another week of waiting, but the hammer fell within 48 hours. Wednesday morning headlines read, "Rathmore suspends merger, launches fraud inquiry." Clayton's name appeared in the first paragraph, right above mine. As the whistleblower, I stared at the article until tears blurred it. Not sadness, not even joy. Just the deep relief of being seen. The messages started pouring in. Former teammates wrote apologies. Old professors congratulated me. But the one voicemail that mattered came from Mom. "I knew truth had its own timing," she said. "Yours just arrived on schedule." That evening we had dinner together. Her roasted chicken, rosemary scent filling the kitchen. "What will you do now?" she asked. "Something new," I said. "Something that doesn't need permission, to be honest." Before bed, I placed my mother's choir ticket on my desk beside the printed article. They both represented the same thing, proof that quiet voices can still carry through walls. 2 weeks later, Rathmore's CEO called. I expected anger. I heard admiration instead. "Elena, we've reviewed the findings. Without you, we might have merged with a fraudulent partner. We'd like to offer you a role leading our new ethics analytics division, answerable only to the board." For a long second, I couldn't speak. When I finally did, my voice trembled. "Thank you. But I have one condition." "Name it." "No input from Mr. Rhodes in any form." "Mr. Rhodes resigned yesterday," he said quietly. After the call, I sat on my couch, hands shaking, laughing without sound. The walls that had once shrunk around me now felt wide open. I stepped onto the balcony. The city lights looked soft and alive. I whispered, "Mom was right. Strategy burns slow, not out." Down below, traffic murmured like applause. Revenge was complete, but it no longer felt like revenge. It felt like restoration, the world rearranging itself back into fairness. Clayton disappeared from the company overnight. His name vanished from the directory. His parking spot repainted within a day. Still, the ghost of his arrogance lingered in every corridor I visited during my first week back. When I entered my new office, a modest glass corner, sunlight spilling onto clean desks, I found a single envelope on the chair. Inside was a note in shaky handwriting. "I never saw what he did until you showed us." No signature. Maybe from HR, maybe from one of my old teammates. Either way, it felt like quiet peace. That afternoon, I began rebuilding the analytic systems. For once, every file bore the right author tag. My tag at 5 o'clock. I shut off the lights and looked out at the skyline. Somewhere out there, Clayton was facing lawyers and debts. I felt no triumph, only balance returning. When I got home, Mom was waiting with soup and her small smile. "You look taller," she said. "I just stopped shrinking," I answered. The next morning brought attention I hadn't asked for. News blogs ran think pieces titled "The Analyst Who Exposed a Corporate Giant." Some made me sound fearless. Some painted me like an avenging angel. I wasn't either. I was just tired of unfairness, pretending to be order. Audra called laughing. "You broke the internet for a day." "I only told the truth." "Exactly," she said. "Few people bother." The company's press team begged me for a comment, but I declined. Words twist in headlines. Silence stays whole. That night, I sat on my couch scrolling through messages. High school friends, old bosses, even strangers writing thank you notes. Then a text came from an unknown number. "You think you won? You just gave them more power to hide that it had to be Clayton." I deleted it, but my pulse stayed quick for hours. Some fights, I realized, don't end cleanly. They fade like echoes. I turned off my phone and let sleep reclaim me. The following weekend, I visited Mom again. She was trimming roses in her backyard. "You still checking your phone?" she teased, and I smiled. Trying not to. She handed me the pruning shears. "Then help me instead." We worked in the cool sunlight, clipping old stems and shaking away thorns. At one point she said, "You could write all this down, you know. People need to hear a story like yours." I'm not a writer. You are when you're honest, she said. That night, back home, I opened a fresh document and began typing. Not a report, not an accusation, just memory. The day of the firing, the long nights, the choir songs in the distance. Each sentence loosened something inside me. To be why midnight I had 5 pages. I didn't know if anyone would ever read them, but they reminded me who I was before ambition, before betrayal. A person who simply loved patterns, and justice was just another pattern made visible. On Monday, I attended my first board meeting as head of ethics analytics. The conversation flowed easily, all professionalism and trust. Still halfway through, the CEO turned to me. Elena, there's something else. Quora Holdings recommended you for a Regional Integrity Award. We'd like to support that. And blinked. An award. He smiled. For doing what most people won't. Applause rose around the table, soft but sincere. My cheeks burned. Afterward, Audra met me in the lobby. You earned it, she said. I only did my job. She shook her head. No, you rewrote what that job means. We walked outside into warm wind. I looked up at the glass tower and thought how strange it was to feel gratitude toward a place that had once erased me. Sometimes redemption isn't escape. It's reclamation. That evening, I mailed a copy of my 5-page story to my mother. No note, just an envelope. I knew she'd understand every line. A month later, spring bloomed wider. My routine softened. Morning runs, quiet breakfasts, long afternoons spent designing fairer auditing systems. One evening, a call came from a blocked number. I answered instinctively. Elena, a man's voice rasped. It's me. Clayton. That I waited. I lost everything, he said. The house, the accounts, everything. I know you did what you thought was right, but maybe you can help me file a statement, something to ease the penalties. I closed my eyes for a long second. You once fired me without warning, I said finally. But I still warned you it would come back. I was wrong, he muttered. I know, I said softly. That's why I won't lie for you now. He said nothing, only breathing rough on the other end. Then the line went dead. I stood by the window, watching the streetlights blink on justice. I thought, isn't about revenge after all. It's about boundaries finally respected. The next morning felt strangely light. Maybe that's what peace is. Just absence where the weight used to be. I walked to work on foot instead of driving. The air smelled like rain and baked bread from the cafe downstairs. For once, nobody whispered when I entered the lobby. New interns looked up with respect rather than pity. It was almost awkward to my desk. I found an envelope marked private. Inside was a handwritten card. Thank you for showing us that integrity can be data too. Signed by the new analytics team. I smiled until my cheeks hurt. That afternoon, while reviewing compliance drafts, I noticed an error that could cost the firm thousands. I fixed it quietly, documenting the correction. It struck me that this was the same task I'd done for years. Only difference was, now my name stayed attached. When evening came, I closed my files and whispered to the empty room. This is how justice sounds, quiet, steady, and permanent. A week later, the local news invited me to speak about ethics in business. I almost refused. Attention still felt dangerous. But Mom insisted. Tell the story in your own words before someone else writes it for you, she said. Oh, I did. The studio lights were hot, the microphone heavy. The host asked what revenge felt like. I told her it never felt like revenge. It felt like math. One wrong figure balanced by one right correction. After the segment aired, messages flooded in from employees around the city. People who'd been silenced, overlooked, or stolen from. Many said the story gave them hope. I saved every message in a folder called Quiet Victories. That night I visited Mom again. She handed me fresh pie and said, Your grandmother would have loved this ending. I'm not sure it's an ending, I said. She smiled. Then make the next chapter kind. Summer arrived with warm storms. I spent weekends volunteering at a small community bank, teaching high school students about fair finance. Their curiosity reminded me why I'd loved numbers in the first place. One afternoon, a girl named Marcy asked, Were you scared to speak up? He nodded. Yes. You can be scared and still do the right thing. He grinned. Then I want to be like you. Driving home that evening I cried quietly. Not from pain but gratitude. The road shimmered from leftover rain, like the world reflecting itself back to me. When I reached home, I opened my balcony doors and began writing again, expanding those 5 early pages into a full account. Each sentence washed away another corner of bitterness. By midnight, I titled it Patterns of Truth. Maybe someday it would become a book. For now it was just mine, a reminder that silence is not surrender. It's preparation. In late August, the company held a small ceremony. The board presented me with the Integrity Award Audra had mentioned. As I accepted it, flashes from reporters caught silver on the plaque. It read, "For courage," written in data and grace afterward. Audra found me near the refreshment table. "So what now, hero?" she joked. "I think I'm done being a hero," I said. "I just want to be happy." "Then start," she said, raising her glass. That night on my balcony I phoned Mom. "I'm booking us a trip, somewhere quiet." She laughed. "Somewhere with choir music." "Exactly." Above the city, lightning flickered far away. Gentle, harmless. For the first time in years, I didn't feel the urge to calculate risk. I just let myself breathe, unmeasured and free. A year later, on a rainy Sunday, I found myself sitting by the same window where everything began. The city hummed softly, and I brewed coffee just for the scent and why life had settled into rhythm. Work I respected, people who respected me, evenings that belonged to silence. Every Sunday night, I still look over the notebook that started it all, the one labeled Endgame. The pages are worn now, corners bent. I flipped to the last note I wrote after everything ended. Never waste anger when evidence will do. Truth lasts longer. I smiled, closed the cover, and placed it beside the framed award on my shelf. Then I turned to my laptop and began drafting a new presentation for the ethics conference next month. Title line already typed. How quiet people win. Outside, thunder rolled once, low and distant. I lifted my coffee, whispered, "I did warn him," and let the rain finish the sentence.